Welcome back to The Great Journey,
Great
Journey.
a book club podcast where we delve into the world of Halo one installment at a time. We'll be covering the books, graphic novels, films, and of course, the games, talking about them in a very informal and fun way. My name is Robby, and I'll be your host for this evening. Please welcome my fellow co-hosts James, Charlie, and Will. Tom, unfortunately, will not be here tonight. Jim might be joining late, but anyways, welcome back.
Yo, what's up, everybody?
Yo.
Thanks for having us, Robby.
Yeah. You guys doing all right?
All good.
So last episode, we watched the Fall of Reach animated movie. We saw the origin of John 117, and were introduced to fellow members of what would become the Blue Team. We followed the Spartans through their training, their augmentations, their first mission, up through the first contact with the alien covenant. The movie closed out with Spartan Sam's heroic sacrifice, which proved to chief and humanity that the covenant can be defeated. Before we dive into the comic, let's take a moment to correct and or expand on questions we had from last episodes. First, why did Halsey augment the Spartans at a young age, and how long did it take to recover from augmentation? The answer from Cora. Earlier attempts to create super soldiers had only been partially successful. None of the subjects achieved the performance levels the scientists had predicted. Moreover, over time, many of them suffered health problems, often fatal due to genetic flaws aggravated by the bioenhancement process. It was eventually decided that the only way to create super soldiers was to take children, genetically screen for defects, and introduce bioenhancements gradually as they pass through adolescence. This would enable them to grow into super soldiers and achieve their full potential. In addition, by training and conditioning them from childhood, it was hoped that the Spartans would be dedicated soldiers, undistracted by relationships or feelings. As for recovery, it appears that the Spartans were healthy and using their new enhancements within a few months of augmentations. So pretty quick.
Yeah,
Considering how grueling it seemed like it would affect their bodies.
Right.
And second question, let's talk about the Spartan 1s. And taken from the Halo Alpha website, the precursor to the Spartan program began on Alpha April 13th, 2321, with the activation of the Orion project, launched by the Office of Naval Intelligence. The project was named after the Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy. The aim of the Orion project was to increase the effectiveness of the colonial military authority soldiers in charge of colonial security. The project failed due to poor results and lack of funds, and the 5 test subjects were reintegrated into active duties, but would die within the year from undisclosed causes. On January 29th, 2491, the Colonial Military Administration, in conjunction with the Office of Naval Intelligence, relaunched Orion in secret. The new goal of Orion was to learn from the mistakes of the previous attempt and, using advancements in bioengineering technology, create a genetically enhanced and mechanically augmented super soldier. The candidates were, once again, selected volunteers from all special force branches of the military. This iteration of the project used more advanced indoctrination and biological augmentation techniques. After a grueling series of physical and mental tests, the first batch of soldiers, 165 in total, successfully passed and moved on to the next phase. Though the Orion super soldiers were effective, their abilities fell short of the scientists' hopes, and they cost far too much to develop and field. And the fact that the Colonial Military Administration had been infiltrated by the Secessionist Union, resulting in the shutdown of the CMA and the canceling of the Orion project, with the 165 surviving Orion super soldiers returning to active duty.
That was a long sentence.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that was really...
Woo! It's interesting that It's interesting that the original Orion project was like over 100 years even before that.
Yeah,
And I think what we think of Spartan ones, and like we said, we meet a Spartan one, and we're not going to give it away.
yeah,
But it kind of caught me for a second because it was like 23, 21. That would be over 100 years before. So,
Yeah. Yep.
but
almost like 200, right? Because we're in 25,
yeah,
25-ish, right? Isn't that when Spartan comes up?
25, 50, or well, you're talking about Spartan twos.
Yeah,
Yeah,
25,
that's like
17.
25,
Yeah,
30 or something.
Uh,
17 sounds right.
I'm looking at the comic right now. It's 25, 17-ish is when they first abducted the kids.
No, because I thought all the battling, the main Halo trilogy was 25, 50 something.
Yeah, well,
52.
no, because
Yeah,
52 is when they go to Halo, when they
yeah,
find Halo. September 19th.
Yeah.
I think the first battling, right? Because we were talking about with the Covenant didn't start until late 20s, 25, 25. No,
You're right.
that doesn't line up. So
James, you're
okay,
right. You guys are right. It's I'm looking in a comic right now.
yeah, that's all.
Ys Awakens. They're gonna go look at Chief on Aridus 2. The date was August 17th, 17. So
Yeah,
okay.
but still, like, yeah, basically 200 years prior, right? So even longer than we're thinking. Which, how does, well, that'll spoil stuff. I won't get into it.
There's two different times Orion was launched. The first
That makes
time that
sense. Yeah.
failed, and the second time that also failed, but not as bad.
I wouldn't say it failed. It just didn't hit their objectives, is what it
Yeah.
sounds like, right?
how long of a lifespan do you think humans have at this time? I mean, you got to imagine
That's
that
a good
it's
question.
at least longer than what it is now, right? So maybe like 150 is not unreasonable around this time, you know?
Uh,
Yeah, but it's not like you got a 150-year-old Spartan.
True, true.
Let the Atom Covenant, you whippersnappers.
Get those plasmas off my reach.
no, it seems like um, I'm reading Halopedia. The human, the Homo sapiens, aka human species, their average lifespan is 80 and 90 years. So, which is very weird that, you know, thousands of years or hundreds of years from now, it's still not really changed the lifespan of humans. I wonder, is the average lifespan of humans now closer to, I'm gonna look it up.
I think the average is pretty close to like mid 60s. I guess
Uh,
it depends on also where you're in the.
in the United States, 2022, we're looking at 77.5 years as the average life, which
Nice.
increased by almost 1 year since 2021. But below 2019 is 78, so 75 to 80. So same ballpark, right? But as we're talking about their science advancements and in particular like regeneration and bionics and things of that sort, like it's kind of surprising that the lifespan isn't, drastically increased. Because if we look at even a couple hundred years in our past, right, like your average lifespan was significantly less than 70, 80. So I don't know. I just find that interesting.
Yeah, same. You'd expect it to be kind of exponential trend, with all technology, but Or over 100 would probably be realistic at this time, right?
That's what I would assume, and that would kind of help out with the Orion timeline. But
God dang Covenant.
to be fair, I am curious if on Halopedia the average lifespan of a human, right? It's around the species as a whole, and there's billions of people in thousands, or is it hundreds or thousands of planets and in systems, to where similar to, you know, nowadays, it really depends on kind of where you were born or where you live and kind of the conditions you have been kind of given. So take that for what it is.
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet, like, you know.
And planets getting wiped out by Covenant forces, too. That doesn't help the average lifespan.
It's going to skew that average for sure. All right, let's move. Let's keep going.
All right, yep. Let's keep going. So, what are the symbols of the blue team's logo? And we can't find much specific info on their logo, but a real-life United States Navy Master Chief insignia has one star at its center. The eagle, as we hypothesized before, could be referenced to the tails of a flipped coin, the side he guessed as a child, and the 2 emblem is most likely a reference to the Spartan 2 program. The lightning bolt is up for interpretation.
Badass power.
Any ideas on the lightning bolt on the logo, Will?
Lightning bolt on a logo?
Yeah, the
on blue team's logo.
Like emblem.
Like Zeus?
I will accept that answer.
I like it.
Mean, a lot of it is out of Greek mythology, so.
Yeah, so that would totally track.
Here. It's definitely Zeus then. Right now, it's Zeus.
Wait, for real?
It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
I couldn't find any specific info, so we're completely just spitballing here. But Zeus sounds right.
I buy it. I can't think of anything else it could be.
I mean, the first thing that actually came to mind was like those, like SS, like lightning bolts. But it's definitely, I mean, they're definitely not referencing that. You know,
take it to a very dark place there. Well, I guess to some people in the universe, I guarantee you the UNSC is like Nazis to them. So, you know, it's all about perspective, I suppose.
Wait, are we the bad guys?
our caps have little skulls on them.
Colonel Waltz is a freedom fighter.
I'm trying to look at other UNSC emblems to see if, like, I see no lightning bolt anywhere. Well, the Spartan 2, here we go. If you pull up the Spartan 2 program, excuse me, the program emblem for Spartan 2 is also an eagle, and it also has a star, and it's clasping arrows in one claw and then a lightning bolt in the other. And the lightning bolt is the same style as the one in blue team. So some of that, I think, was really taken from Spartan 2.
Or, Zeus.
It's gotta be Zeus. Gotta keep the Greek.
I mean, the underlying Spartan 2 lightning bolt could be Zeus, right? Like, does any other fire team in Spartan 2 have emblems? Like, I'm not seeing any, which is weird. We can move on, but
We'll backtrack to that. We'll figure that out sometime by the end. But today we're going to explore the Fall of Reach comic written by Brian Reed and illustrated by Felix Ruiz.
Yeah.
Woo!
I'll start it off really quick, Robby.
Mm-hmm.
For all listeners, this was my first, like, actual comic I read through. right?
Hey, that's
Like
Yeah, same.
same.
Oh
Yeah.
way, really?
I've always
Same.
Wow.
I've just never grabbed one and dived into it. Like I've seen, you know, clips and excerpts of them, but like never actually read through a comic. I will also add that I was reading this on Amazon Kindle, and their way of doing the comic was really cool. You can have like the full page, or you could read it like I don't want to call it box. So Will, if you know
Kind of like
exactly kind of like
zooms in, right?
yeah, it
Yeah,
cuts to each box as in order. So you don't necessarily have to try to see the whole page and know which way to go. I don't know. It was interesting
That's
reading
cool.
it that way.
Yeah, that's super cool. On the Google Play thing, the way they had it was like you could like press up and down on the volume buttons on your phone, and it would zoom into like the
Oh,
text, like the speech bubbles. The speech bubbles would pop up, like so you could like press up like down and just go through a conversation, and the speech bubbles like pop up larger, so make it easier for you to
that's
read.
really cool.
that's pretty cool.
I read it in typical print fashion.
Yeah, you
And
actually bought the print, right?
yeah, it was all of the three all of Reach comics put together into like one book.
Yeah, which I think that's what I have in a digital version. I think because
Yep.
my page count is like 279, right? Which is outrageous for one comic, um, in my opinion. But
$279?
pages, pages. It
Oh.
was $8.
All right, sorry, I'm stupid.
I'm not that invested into this podcast or this specific comic book, so um,
Right.
but yeah, I enjoyed it, right? I like comics always give I feel like a lot of emotion in the illustration usually that you don't might not necessarily pick up obviously from a book or a short film. Um, Obviously that depends on who's illustrating it, but yeah, sorry, Robbie, you may continue. We can
Oh no,
let's
you're
actually
good.
get
I
into the
mean,
content, right?
yeah. Let's start it off because we got quite a bit to go. Because I mean, kind of what you're alluding to, James. Like, I mean, there's a lot that goes into these comments. Even though, I mean, for me, it was a pretty quick read, but there's definitely a lot with the emotions within how it was drawn and everything else, But we'll start it off at the very beginning. And this comic opens up with rebel leader Colonel Watts evacuating Elysium City as the UNSC arrive and begin to occupy the planet of Eridanus 2. Before entering slipspace, Watts and his ship, the Iliad, destroy a UNSC cruiser and buy time for the rest of his fleet to escape. 4 years later, Lieutenant Keyes awakens from cryosleep on board the shuttle Han and is charged with escorting Dr. Halsey on a secret mission for ONI. They arrive at an elementary school on Eridanus 2 and they observe a 6-year-old child named John. Halsey states John possesses specific genetic markers that make him of interest and puts the child to a test. Guess the side of a flip coin. John guesses correctly twice, and Halsey gifts the coin. We cut to Halsey speaking with her AI Deja, and she gives the order to round up her test subjects. We see the children, such as John 117, Linda 058, Kelly 087, and Samuel 034, being kidnapped and replaced with identical clones, which will die within a few weeks. Halsey states she has no regrets, but ensures her private journal entries are erased. The children are brought before her, and she informs them that they are now conscripted into the UNSC for Special Project Spartan 2. They will be unable to return home, and Halsey ensures that they will be worked hard to keep them from thinking of their past. We learn that the UNSC has been fighting insurgents for a year or so, and Halsey tries to justify her actions as a greater good. However, she is interrupted by a reply message from the UNSC. chief medical officer, who states that Halsey's proposed hypothetical experimentations cannot avoid the health risks associated, and that only 50% of subjects could be expected to survive. Meanwhile, John dreams of home before being violently awoken for his first day of training. Under orders from Chief Mendez, they are physically tested. Under Deja, they are mentally tested. And now, with the intro with Watts, that was certainly a new addition, which presumably sets the scene for why there is a necessity for the Spartan 2 program at this time. What do you guys think of this edition?
I'll chime in. The intro was interesting, right? Because we never really got a glimpse into it. This is the first time into like setting the stage a little bit for the rebellion. So that was kind of nice. He's waking up in cryosleep and being confused is weird. Like, did they kidnap him? Like, that part is a little weird. Like, why was he confused from like cryosleep? In terms of like why Halsey was on the ship, etc., and having that conversation then instead of the start of their flight. I'll pause there. Any comments about the start?
Yeah, that was kind of weird. I'm just like a little confused, but maybe it was just, who knows? Maybe you're just a little out of it from just being in a cryo chamber for that long, and you kind of just need your juices to get back going. I don't know, but
yeah. Touching Robby on your point about including Watts this time, definitely an interesting ad. I appreciate that they did that just for a little bit of context on what's happening and why we eventually think we need these Spartans. I think we talked in an episode before this where I think Tom was saying, like, the context of these Spartans and why we need them is kind of over the top. But we were like, we don't really have a lot of information about what's going on, with this rebellion. So it's kind of cool that they sidebarred into Watts' story and let us see it.
Yep.
Yeah, for the most part, this comic's kind of just going off the book, but there's like a few changes here and there, and
tasteful changes.
Not only do they also add that part where they're where Halsey, when she goes to see John, we've talked a lot about the coin flip and what does that mean, was he just being able to see where it was going to land, or is John actually that lucky? And it's kind of like left up in the air, so to speak, onto what it is. And I kind of didn't like how in the comic they kind of like just just say John just straight up says, "Oh, I could just tell where it was gonna land," and I thought that was kind of lame. I thought it was better just like, just leaving it up in the air, not knowing, whether he could actually just see where it was gonna land or if he was actually this lucky,
Yeah, I agree. It made me start wondering, and maybe you all know timelines. The book came out first, obviously. Then I assume the game came out. So the book came out right before the game. Did the short film came out recently, right? Like it wasn't like the comic came out before the film, correct? Okay.
I believe so.
Because I'm wondering, like, what resources did the authors have in terms of what to go off of, and then, like, I mean, we see this all the time with film adaptations of books and multiple media adaptations of themselves, in terms of like the author kind of taking a slight deviation sometimes in terms of like the lore or the story. So it is really interesting, and I didn't like it either, Will, well, I just saw the coin, so like I'm not lucky. And then our whole cool thing that we came up with is just thrown out the window. So This comic should
Yeah.
get burned, and
It goes
So-
against our take on that entire thing. We already talked about that.
oh yeah, 100%. And from now on, we hate the comic, and
Yeah.
we'll never read it again.
But I thought you loved the comic.
No, I did, and then I hated it after page 4, but that's okay.
So as far as I can tell, I think the comic came out in 2016.
No.
Oh, really?
I'm looking here in the print. It says originally published between November 2010 and August 2012. So it came out.
Okay.
It came out before Halo 5, which is when the movie came out. So yes, this would have been.
Halo 5 came out
In
that
people's
long
hands.
ago?
Wow.
I'm that fucking old.
Is that a gray hair? I see.
Dude, I was supposed to ask the hairstylist about gray hairs, and I forgot. But apparently I have some going. Jim, on the other hand, you should check him out. He's getting Mr. Peppered.
Hopefully we see him tonight.
I hope so
Ask him
too.
about his gray hairs. Really make him feel good.
I also love the comic where they show John on the playground just beating the shit out of kids, in a headlock and just literally punching the crap out of them. Apparently, that's what these kids do all day, every day.
Just a bunch of cuts on his face and
Yeah.
bruises, like no big deal.
It's so crazy that 500 years, 500 years from now, kids are back outside, right? They're not inside playing video games. It is what all the parents want right now. Go outside and play. And this is what kids do.
Something that I found kind of funny is Deja, the AI teacher
Yeah.
for the Spartans. And I'm sure Tom would appreciate this if he was here. But she starts talking about the Spartans and showing like images of Thermopylae and, the Spartan warriors. And the Spartans look like the Spartans from like Frank Miller's
Yeah.
300, like comic, and Zack Snyder's movie 300 with like the red cloak and like their abs showing, no armor. I just thought that was a little funny.
100%.
Quickly touching on that. She said that the Spartans saved she quote saved Greece, but didn't they end up dying?
That didn't happen.
Yeah, they ended up dying. So she essentially told them a lie about the fate of the Spartans, which is kind of a foreshadow if you think about it.
Oh, that's deep.
She's
That's
like,
deep,
oh,
Charlie.
and the Spartans saved Greece, but really that's not what happened. So
She got the kids excited about it though.
How could an AI? How dare an AI lie to children? One thing popped in my mind. We see John, right, getting picked, analyzed, and he's fighting and playing King of the Hill. I want to know how what were the other Spartans do? Like, was every Spartan just playing King of the Hill when they got, like, evaluated? Like, I don't know. It's just very interesting because I feel like because the Spartans are very physically, genetically kind of advanced, like, specific on the most part, like, they all had been doing something physical. I don't know. That just popped in my mind. I'm like, were they all beating the shit out of other children and that was it? We would just pick up the biggest bully in school and then train them how to be a super soldier? Like, I don't know.
Sounds like it solves two problems at once.
It kind of does. And then really quick on Deja, I found it shocking that when the kids got to the Naval Academy, Deja just was outside, just like, "Hey kids, welcome." And I'm like, do they even have that tech? Like, I know obviously they have holographic stuff, but like, can they just project an AI hologram like outside in the open? I don't know. I found that it was just a weird addition. I'm being nitpicky, I guess, is kind of what I was getting at.
nitpicky.
Also, John thought Deja was hot. He said she was beautiful, so.
John has a type.
Yeah, John has a type.
Last quick thing I want to add here is it's interesting to me. Halsey was talking to that scientist. You know, is there anything we can do to alleviate the risks associated with the augmentations? But before that, she was listening to like a news blast or something, and it said death toll in the system to over 3,000 since the conflict began last year. So this entire rebellion has only been going on for a year, but they already think that they need Spartans, like these super soldiers, to like kill this rebellion. I thought it was going to be like a long,
Yeah,
you know,
and
a long drawn out thing. They're talking about 1 year, at least in the comic. I'm saying they're talking about it's been 1 year.
what's also weird, like, no offense, like, human life is a human life, but 3,000 to then feel 3,000 people dying to then steal 75 children and spend millions of dollars and the whole setup, like, that was weird. But it could have been just O&I's excuse to get political buy-in, to say, hey, there's a war here. I think we need this. Right? We see it all like in modern day war scenarios, right? Politicians will use any excuse to kind of just dump more money into a secret program.
I think in the book they kind of like bring up like stuff like this is kind of like happening throughout this, like, I guess the universe, like these kind of rebellions and stuff. I don't think, the government is pretty popular.
Sure, I mean, if you look at other sci-fi examples too, right? Or just even again, I'll go back to like, our past as humans and society, like having colonies so far removed from the leading power, that the values and kind of what's being imposed is not at all aligned with the locals. So, yeah, when you have star systems and solar systems and hundreds of different planets and colonies like across these systems, like, yeah, people are going to say this is stupid. Why? I'm hundreds or billions of light years away. Why do I care about what Earth has to say or what UNSC has to say?
That's a good point. I mean, yeah.
But what Charlie called out is interesting, right? Like, okay, this is like, hat tip to, oh, this conflict's only been around a year, right? I would love us to fact check that and kind of like figure out that timeline. Because that does seem very small for what was all going on.
That opening with Watts we were talking about happened it was
4 years ago.
listed date is 21st 2513. So obviously they
Yeah.
know that there's insurgents around, but then there's that section with Halsey, and it said like I said, that it only began a year ago.
You
So
know
I don't
what?
know.
You know what?
I don't know what to believe.
If we reread that text of what's in the text blurb, right? It says, for the third straight day, bringing the death toll in the system to over 3,000. So this could be just in that system and not in terms of like all of the systems that, humans reside in. So that might be kind of what's happening, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, we cleared that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're pretty good to move on. Next part. So, meanwhile, on the outskirts of Eridanus 2, UNSC cargo vessel emerges from slip space and comes into immediate contact with rebel forces. Unable to outrun them, they take the fight to the boarding insurgents. Rebel leader Watts listens from on board the Iliad, again pressured for time from incoming UNSC reinforcements. A few years on, and the Spartan recruits are being dropped off in the wilderness in a training exercise. They regroup and make their way to the rendezvous ship, only to find it patrolled by hostile guards. Remembering the lessons from Deja about how wolves hunt in packs, children subdue the guards and learn that teamwork is paramount. Halsey and Mendez promote John to squad leader and orders him on a mission. The mission? To survive. Few years on, and the Spartans undergo augmentation. John awakes and learns that many of his fellow recruits did not make it, and he learns the lessons from Mendez, that when it comes down to it, a life spent means more than a life wasted. Later on, Halsey is invited to observe her Spartans in a secret facility on the planet Reach. The Spartans are tasked with capturing a flag that is guarded by Marines in Mjolnir Mark I armor. It is clear that the physical enhancements are working and the Spartans easily win their objective. However, Halsey requires John and a group of the best Spartans for an urgent need. The Spartans receive their first mission. Supplied with info from a rebel informer, the Spartans will stow away aboard an independent freighter and infiltrate the rebel base amid the asteroid belt. Hidden on board, Kelly infiltrates the ship's manifest and finds luxury items likely bound for Watts. They track the shipment and find Watts' location. The Spartans burst into headquarters, and in a spat of gunfire, John sacrifices his body to protect Sam. He takes a round at the side, and Watts meanwhile locks himself in the safe room. Spartans blow apart the door and capture the rebel leader. They stuff him into a pressurized crate and begin to make their escape. Under heavy fire, they can commandeer a Pelican and blow a hole in the space dock to exit the asteroid. Mission accomplished. Now, there are plenty of new scenes introduced in this kind of segment here, such as the freighter being boarded by insurrectionists and that firefight on the docks when the Spartans are trying to flee with Watts. But there are also some omissions, such as the obstacle course and John destroying the ODSTs in the weight room. Now, which scenes, additions, or removals did you guys think was the most significant to the plot?
I don't know if this is like the most significant, but my favorite addition is right before John and like Blue Dream like busts in and start killing Colonel Waltz's men. There's like two random janitors. They're just like, Waltz, we love you, man. Thank you so much for taking the fight to those fascists. Like, you're the best. Like, I just love that. You know, trying to humanize Waltz.
I enjoyed that part too. It was kind of just so funny.
Those janitors, like right before their eyes, see freaking Waltz, get taken prisoner, and
It's all
there
about
goes
context.
your hero, man.
It's all about context. Robby, that's a great couple of questions there. Again, I liked that we're seeing a little bit of different perspective. Again, Watts was attacking this freighter that was transporting something. So we got to see again like the effect of this insurgency on the UNSC. We get a little bit of, context of, how this battle's going. So again, that's a cool addition. I guess I didn't even really think about the ODST section, but yeah, they completely omitted the ODSTs here. And I think for good, I don't mind that because that whole scene kind of rubbed me wrong from the beginning anyway, where he's essentially killing his own soldiers. And I guess the only context we get from that scene is that he is enhanced and it's working out. Like, I don't know.
I always kind of thought that scene was okay, like the fight. The part that always rubbed me the wrong way is like when like some commander comes in and it's like, okay, do this the right way and like get in the ring and fight. I was like, always thought that was kind of like weird.
Yeah,
What do you think, James?
yeah, I don't think the weight room provides significant value. I think it was a segue. I think they used it as kind of a example of like the augmentations and how they impact
Yeah.
someone, which we really don't end up getting, right? You lose how significantly augment like how those augmentations really benefit a human versus kind of like if you don't have them. So you don't there's no addition here that kind of gives that significance in my opinion.
That's a really good point.
Outside of that, they're just like soldiers, right? And you could argue that, oh, they could be that good of soldiers without being augmented. So that was kind of the only thing I would say, right? It is weird of a scene, right? I do agree, like it was weird that, you know, John killed soldiers. I think it was weird. There is also some significance with um what he was told when he killed the soldiers, right? Like,
Good for you.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it
Yeah.
was also like
Good
it
job.
was like, you know, like
And as it's giving him fist pumps, like fuck.
I know. Yeah, but it was kind of done in a military way of like altering again how John thinks, right? Like John really doesn't want to, you know, do harm, especially to a fellow, you know, military person, or someone who doesn't really truly pose a threat. But it was also reinforced that, like, hey, there's a bigger mission. There's, you know, in some of these missions, you're gonna have to do tough decisions, and so here we go. So, like, you do lose some context there. So I think it's kind of potentially a shame that the comic pulled that out instead of just again leaving it in. Yeah. In terms of the other editions, like I do enjoy hearing the other what else is going on, right? I think we called that out also while going through the book, right? How you learn so much more lore and context around not just John, but everything else going on and all these other characters that you don't ever get from Halo CE and really a lot of the other video games, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they also removed the scene where uh John, they put him on a team with like that one kid and I think
Fred and
Kelly,
where
and
they, yeah, the
they have to
obstacle
work
course.
together, and yeah, and they don't they don't get dinner even though
Yep.
John won because his teammates came in last. They took that out of the comic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was another
They just kind of say, hey, we threw him into this shithole of a military camp and it's tough, right? But yeah.
I feel that was an important scene. John learning the power of teamwork.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I felt like that was important to show the growth from John being like just completely self-centered to actually trying to work with as a team or starting at least that beginning process. So I'm with you. I kind of thought that was weird to omit that. I will say I kind of liked kind of worked at the Wolves situation in a
Yep.
different way, and I kind of
Yep.
like that, especially if you kind of like you did a proper adaptation for like a movie or something of this. This would be a great way to work it in. Just be like, because they said earlier in the comic, like, oh yeah, and then we're going to teach you about wolves, and then just left it at that, and then they come back and kind of they give the lesson as they're beating the shit out of these hostile forces.
right.
No, I like that a lot.
So I thought that was a good way to work it in. Some good artistic interpretation, if you will.
Yeah, that's an instance where the comic definitely elevated the pages from the book for me,
Yep.
where you can picture it in your mind while reading the book, but the comic definitely added to that, so
The one, two interesting points here. One, this wilderness is not a frozen tundra like the short film presented. I also don't think the book kind of set the scene of it being a frozen tundra, so I also don't know why the short film went that way. So this makes a lot more sense that, hey, we can dump kids here and they're not going to freeze to death. My one gripe, what the hell is up with this dropship? It's not a Pelican. Like, I don't know why he drew a weird Like it looks like
Yeah.
a Starship Troopers dropship.
Oh my God, I was about to
Like
say
it has
that, James.
nothing.
I
I've
was
never seen
literally
this
about to
ship
say that.
before in my life in Halo. So someone tell me why this ship design got in. But that's my only gripe, really. Other than that, I think it was
Yeah.
pretty artistic and obviously followed the book.
Thought the same thing. I looked at it and I'm like, that looks like a
Yep.
Starship Trooper dropship.
Which I mean, I'm all about Starship Troopers, man. So
Well, I think we covered all that pretty well. Moving on. Later on, the Spartans are called to a briefing with Vice Admiral Stanforth and his only attaché Beowulf. Stanforth reveals that humanity has made contact with aliens, that they attacked and destroyed the planet of Harvest, and that they have been studying humanity for some time. Message revealed that they are called the Covenant and that they will be the bringers of humanity's destruction. Halsey and the Spartans are on board the Commonwealth en route to Chi Ceti 4. Realizing the aliens can slipstream jump in system, they're suddenly confronted by a Covenant cruiser. Battle ensues in which Captain Wallace sacrifices his longsword fighters, but is able to hold off the enemy long enough to get Halsey and the Spartans to the training facility to continue their mission. Halsey introduces the Spartans to Project Mjolnir, enhanced armor suits that will enhance their combat abilities. John tests armor first. The Spartans begin to test their suits until they are interrupted by Captain Wallace. The Covenant ship is returning, and they're running out of time to escape. Chief offers to field test the armor, and Halsey, with no other options, agrees. John, Kelly, and Sam plan to infiltrate the Covenant ship by flying through the space and detonating a bomb from the inside. Realizing that ship's shields drop when firing, they time their landing and rendezvous in the ship. Once inside, they make their way by heat signatures to the reactor core, but are stopped by jackals. In one encounter, Sam pushes John out of the line of fire and is wounded himself. He considers it payback for John saving him before. They locate the reactor core and arm the bomb, but Sam announces he will stay to ensure it goes off. His suit was damaged and will not survive the decompression of space. John and Kelly escape while Sam fights off attacking jackals, and as the ship explodes from within, John remembers Mendez stating that a life is not wasted if spent correctly. Sam's death proves that the Covenant can be destroyed. Now, Beowulf mentioned earlier that the Spartans do not have the clearance to see the alien species. Now, do you guys think this is an early indication that there's some sort of backroom Oni sabotage going on?
I
didn't get that idea, I suppose, from that. I think it's like this was kept such a secret. Oni, I'm saying, kept it such a secret that they're like, at this point, it's like, who should we let in on the knowledge? And then I think it was Stanford that was like, just tell them, sort of situation. So
think Oni keeps a lot of this stuff so secret to the point that it's a detriment to humanity's struggle against the Covenant. Like, there's another part in the comic where the ship captain doesn't know that the Covenants can enter slipstream within a solar system with like pinpoint accuracy when he's in the ship with Halsey, and Halsey's like, no, like Oni hasn't told anybody, but yeah, they can do this shit. So I think it just comes down to like Oni just, keeping its secrets too close to his chest, even though it's not really good for the
you're
struggle.
saying it's almost like the U.S. government not telling us about aliens and UFOs. That's where I'm drawing the line, right?
I mean, that's
Unclassify that shit.
pretty much the same idea.
Otherwise, we're screwed in the future. Dude, what if this like foreshadowing future? 500 years from now.
I'd be scared as fuck. I want to touch now. Sorry, James. I want to touch now that we didn't talk about this on the last part where it was Chief dove and took bullets for Sam while protecting or while getting Watts, and then obviously they flip it around now, and again, Sam protects Chief aboard the alien Covenant ship, which eventually got him killed. But that was different from the book, but it was also similar to the movie. So that's another change. And I do appreciate that change because, it kind of signifies that, like, they're willing to sacrifice themselves for each other. Like, just, like, great friends, almost family like. So
And it does
it's context
align
there.
with John and his mentality of trying to make everyone around him survive. I love how then it cuts to a edition of them going through an obstacle course and just getting pelted with paintballs. I think that's hilarious. It just, if I was a military person, I don't know if I would enjoy or hate myself for pelting little 6, 7-year-old kids with paintballs, but
One little addition that the comic did here was when Halsey was handing John his helmet to put on. To be like, oh wait, did we talk about Mjolnir yet? We talked about the Mjolnir, right, Robbie? Yeah, because yep, yes, okay. So um, Halsey like gave him a helmet to put on, and John like accidentally breaks the helmet in his hands, and then she gives him the one that we all know. So I just found that kind of funny. Like, according to the comic, John could have looked completely different, but because he broke the helmet that he was handed, he now has the helmet that we see in the game.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
It was just different.
I want to talk, I just want to mention that some of the artwork in some of these panels is just so good. Like, there's one I'm looking at right now where blue team's jumping out of the Pelican towards the Covenant ship. And it's just awesome. They got the planet there in the background, the stars, and the ship. It's just really
116.
cool artwork.
Yeah, that it's. I was
And then
impressed.
they got another one of the alien ship firing its guns. I think it's 168, I think. Or wait, no. 122. And just like the circle and the laser firing, all the stars in the background. It's very cool.
yeah, the comic really did, the illustrator did a great job on especially battle scenes and space scenes in particular. I think were really, really cool.
Yeah, later on there's a lot more like the space battles between ships. It's very cool.
We already know you're a fan. You're a fan of the space battle duel. Every
Yeah,
single
the space
scene
battles are
in
awesome.
every media, space battles. Something that I want to
Yeah.
quickly throw in there. Yeah, I thought was interesting. One, I think the comic gave backstory and context into why the Spartans were hopping on a particular ship and not just hoping that they get to where Watts was, but like, oh, there was an insider who, leaked detail to O and I in terms of Watts, right? Like, it was a little bit of a more thoughtful judgment call instead of just like, hop on this ship and maybe you'll find a place and see you later. Um, so I thought that was nice. I think one weird thing was they threw Watts in a shipping container and shut them off a building. Like, why? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care if that shipping container is meant to resist pressure, right? That just means it's not going to implode or explode. That doesn't mean that watches him whacking his fucking head, tumbling 4 or 5 stories down onto it. That was just a little bit too much. Also, they like shot their way out versus like 50 people in terms of what the comic was illustrating. That didn't really happen that way.
Well, I will say that.
It,
Sorry, Will. The comic definitely. I mean, they had firefights and stuff, but like in the book, you got to remember he blew the fucking hangar apart and like literally sucked like all of the dock workers out into space. So like, which one would you rather take? Would you rather take shooting some guys with guns or killing a bunch of innocent people?
That's a moral.
I don't know.
in the comic
that's
they
a
show
moral question.
that one of the
What's a realistic outcome question? Like scenario, right? 5 Spartans not in their like proper gear, standing in front of 50 people versus secretly fighting their way out, small pockets at a time and then blowing up a hangar door. I would probably go with the latter. Will, what were you gonna add to that though?
I was just gonna say, like, I was just surprised in the comic that they literally show Linda blowing the head off of like a random dock worker that like was gonna spot him, I think.
Oh yeah.
And it's like in the book, it's like, okay, I mean, there's an explosion, and I mean, I guess they are killing all these people, but not directly, kind of. But in the comic, it's literally like they're literally shooting at these dock workers and taking them out. It's crazy.
They're either power hungry or literally have no control over what the hell they're like scared, so they're just killing everyone. Because I assume the other Spartans have a similar mindset to John in terms of morally what makes sense, who are we going to kill and why, and things of that sort. We don't really get that context from some of the other Spartans, I don't think, which is a shame. But yes, I don't think Kelly would go up to a random dock worker and blow their head off because they might spot him or whatever. Or they might rat him out. But yeah.
Last thing I want to add here, I realized in this part that once Chief gets his armor, you don't really see his head or face, just like the games, But if you really go back in the comic, you don't see his full face as soon as he starts getting his augmentations. So the last you see him is a little kid, and then like the next page is your mission is to survive, and his face is wrapped up during augmentations. From then on, you don't actually see his full face. It's either wrapped up or his face is in like it's a behind shot, or his face is in the dark or something. So yeah, it's kind of like what you see with the game.
That's a pretty cool observation, actually.
I'm looking at page 62, the second. I'm gonna call it block. Someone correct me what the proper comic book term is of a scene. But yeah, half his face is kind of like blocked out, which is very interesting. So yeah, good observation. I want to know, like, why though, right?
I think the context is way back when Halo first came out. The idea of these video games at the time was like, the hero is you. Like, you can be the hero sort of situation. And that's why Chief was never showed his face. And it was just like a product of the time. And now it's just a shtick. You can't change. I mean, you saw what the Halo TV show did, and everyone was upset about it. So it is what it is now, sort of thing.
Yeah, knowing the other media and mediums, like, I get it now. I don't think it was necessary, but like, I 100% get it coming from being a video game fan. And yeah, I was Master Chief. Like, I don't care who the hell John was. It's James, right? But so I get it from that context. I would also add, like, why is his hand to counter it, right? I like how the comics took it, as best as they could, but like to counter that, like, did they have augmentations to their head? I don't think so. So like, why is he bandaged up? Like, I don't know. Like, I get it, like, that's how I truly think, like, your thought is correct, and that's the direction they want to go, and that was the best way they could kind of transition it to kind of be, hey, we don't know what John looks like after augmentation. Um, it just is a weird, like, I don't know, if I want to be nitpicky, like, that's what I'm going to call out. Like, they didn't augment their eyes or anything to do with their head. But yeah, I like that observation, Charlie. Good job.
What do you guys have any thoughts on the dream that John has where he's looking out into this like distance and there's a city, it's like a desert, but there's a city in the desert, and then Kelly comes up to him and is like, John, I need you to look at something, and it looks like she's bleeding all over the place and about to die. I wonder what all of that was about, because that's not in the books, that's not in the movies, that's not in anything.
She looks to be child form of Kelly and not, and John is clearly an adult, which is also a little, I don't know what that's really calling out to. Um, I think the John, I need you to look at something, like, gets explained right below it, where she literally is trying to show him something and wake him up. I do want to know if, yeah, what planet and city is John looking at in that first scene? Like, is that where he's from?
I feel like it's yeah, I feel like that's where he's from, and he's kind of looking back and just just because they want the Spartans to try to forget their past, right, and not go back, but something his subconscious obviously can't really completely forget, and then Kelly just pops in because I assume it's because she wakes him up while he's in REM sleep, right, and um, just kind of enters that way to show him the whole luxury goods and whatnot, right?
That's a good point, yeah.
So I don't know. That's how I took it, at least.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Thing to call out on the page prior, and I'm not sure if it's lined up well. On the page prior, so page 65, the first scene looks to kind of be potentially the planets, if you flip flop between them, of, oh, are they landing on whatever that deserty orange planet is, and then in the sky on the next page you kind of see a purpley planet and a farther out planet. I don't know if that is also the planet in question, so take that for what it is. But page 57, if you go to that, that planet style is very much like it calls it out, it's Reach. And so I'm wondering if John is on Reach looking at, I don't remember there being a true, well, there is a big city on Reach, right? So I wonder if that is Reach, and then
Yes.
basically that's what he's dreaming of, is like just looking at the military base and then their main city. I forget what the main city is.
I mean, maybe it is Reach because when he's dreaming, Kelly's injured, she's bleeding and stuff. It's Reach in the background. Maybe somehow that's a foreshadow of what's to come.
Does
No.
Cully get?
Oh,
She doesn't get injured that early.
Not that Kelly does. It's just, it's your friends, it's your
Yeah.
fellow Spartans that are, gonna sacrifice themselves here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm spitballing. So,
But it's still, I guess, to James' point earlier, like how she was a
Yeah.
child, pretty much, and all bloody. That part's kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if in the comic
Maybe it's
there is a scene of her getting injured as a child, and maybe John is like thinking, "Oh, I couldn't protect her." I'm trying to see if that comes up. I don't think it does. But yeah, I think he's on Reach is kind of the scenario, and not at home. By the way, the main city on Reach is called New Alexandria, or also known as Reach City, if we care about it. They call it Reach City in the TV show, but New Alexandria. And the only reason I knew that,
Dude, all
Yeah.
these Greek references like Colonel Watts' ship, the Iliad, Alexandria, Alexander the Great named a bunch of cities after himself. All these ancient Greek references.
yeah. So interesting. But I think that's what I like about the comic, are these little kind of like dreams that John is having, or like these small additions in terms of kind of like what else is going on in the world. I kind of like that a lot. But yeah, if you want to wrap it up here, Robby, in terms of like we'll split in half, or Charlie, whoever.
So we made it halfway through, which means it's PvP tournament time. With our discussion over, we need to pick our battle for this evening. With the results of last week's match, here are the current standings. First place, we got Will with 22, but James not too far behind with 21. Myself and Tom are tied with 17. Charlie not too far behind with 15, and Jim, unfortunately, with only 8 right now. Tom was our surprise.
Over.
He probably should have joined.
Yeah,
Even late. But,
probably needs to earn a little bit more points back.
yeah, he's got some work to do. But Tom was our surprise winner last week. Unfortunately, he can't be here to defend his crown, but did know what we should play. And we're going to play in his honor. So, per Tom, we will be playing King of the Hill on Narrows map in Halo 3.
Hell yeah.
James, do we have any Halo dad jokes?
Why didn't Bungie stick with Halo?
I didn't Bungie stick with Halo. Well, they left Halo to do Destiny, because I'm going to say something about it was.
Yep, because it wasn't their destiny. Very good job, Charlie. Very good job.
What
For next time, we'll continue the Fall of Reach comic and wrap it up. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Great Journey.
The Great
Journey.
One of your hosts here on The Great Journey. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on most podcast platforms, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Great Journey Pod. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/The Great Journey Pod. Thank you for your listenership, and we'll hope to see you for the next chapter of The Great Journey. So no, I don't have a dad joke.
I had was
God damn it, James. Robby and I did so much preparation, and you couldn't even come up with a fucking joke.
Well, because I had to host this week, but because of my tie with Will, so that's why this week I was willed into making a Mai Tai.
God damn it! God damn it!
Okay. Ernest can save me
Gotta throw
here,
that one out
and this
there.
is
Get it
for the
out
video
there.
game people.